by popular demand, video too. So many of you reached out to us and said, hey, we appreciate you kind of breaking stuff down. A lot of times we get into these types of things and we're trying to cover, especially with clients, things really quickly. So we decided to kind of take from our intro video a couple topics and break them down even more, so that you can check them out on LinkedIn or YouTube or Facebook, and go by topic if that's helpful for you and your company. So I think the name of today is, what does it cost?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's the number one question we get asked is, how much is it going to cost if I either don't have benefits or if I'm going to look to improve my benefits? So we just have a couple of key bullet points to cover of, what you should be either asking somebody else or hopefully asking us would be ideal. So the first response I have to when someone says how much is going to cost is, well, how much does it cost to not have those benefits, right? How much are you paying to acquire talent that either doesn't want to work for you because you don't have anything that they are looking for? Money doesn't speak to everybody, right?
Right, yeah.
If what you're coming into a job is for security and for something that will provide for your family, money doesn't pay for all of the things that you need.
Well, and I think in West Michigan too, we talked a little bit about this in our last video. We have a unique market in West Michigan, and post-COVID, we actually have the highest percentage of single income family homes than we've had in the last 20 years. So that's a real shift back where you have one parent possibly that's having to cover a spouse and children, and that needs to be affordable. Well, obviously, if you're looking to increase either compensation or benefits, you're responsible for those things. So you have some different considerations there. And if employees have different considerations, now we have employers have different considerations.
It used to be when you were talking about hiring somebody, you're looking for someone who doesn't need benefits would be they're under 26, they're on mom and dad's insurance, or their spouse has benefits. Well, like Rachel said, that pool of people is shrinking every day. Even people who are under 26 might want to have benefits. At least their parents probably want them to.
Yeah.
But also that above 26 person that doesn't need benefits because they have a spouse, that number is getting smaller. So we really have found in the last couple of years that if you're not offering competitive benefits, those people aren't even applying for your job when they go on whatever site you're posting on currently.
Well, if you think about the investment in that employee, so let's say we get someone out of college, let's say they're 22, 23 years old, and we're investing in them to train them, to give them some job skills, because as we know, that's kind of for any career, on the job training is a huge part of that. You're taking time away from other employees to train them, and then as soon as they turn 26, now they're out the door. So you kind of have to look at it as a down payment, if you will, to keep that employee long term. So those are what Tyler's talking about, the investment, the cost. So many employers are just talking about the actual dollar amount that it takes to have an employee benefit program, and that's really not always what we're talking about. The dollar amount is a finite, but it's the intangibles that we talk about a lot of times that we can't put a dollar on. We help employers to do that and kind of identify, well, one, what are employee benefits? I mean, what do you consider to be part of that package?
Well, even break it down further than that, what is the definition of a benefit, right? It has to be something that has to be an advantage for the employee that makes them feel like they're getting more out of it than they would if they didn't work for you, right? So a number, just a gold standard number that I've talked to a lot of people about recently is 50%. If you're not paying at least 50% of what it costs for the benefit, then you're not making it advantageous for them to work for you, because anybody can pay less than that, and it's okay, I can get it in the marketplace, I can do it somewhere else. Anybody can give me $200 a month for benefits, but unless you're above that 50%, it's really not advantageous for me to take your benefits.
Well, and to draw talent away.
Correct.
Like if you have to steal talent, which we know right now we do, you need to entice them somehow. And when I think about employee benefits, it's a number of different items. That's salary, compensation, that's your core benefits, health insurance, dental, vision, disability, 401k. But there's other things too that as employers we need to be cognizant of, like workers' compensation, training, licensing. Those things all come into play. So when we're talking about the actual cost of having that employee, one, we need to know that as the employer. And two, we need to be able to relay that information to the employee.
Yep.
And how we do that is transparency. That's something, is also a cost. If you might offer the best benefits in the world and pay 100% of them. If you go to any employee in your company and they say, how are your benefits? Oh, they suck. Okay, we're not doing our jobs. There's some sort of misunderstanding. There's some sort of lack of transparency there. Understanding what they have and what they're getting and the actual, again, I'm going to use the word cost, both financially and from a benefit standpoint. That there needs to be an understanding there, and how we do that can vary from company to company. But we don't want to be spending next to payroll our number 2 cost on our budget where our employees don't appreciate it or there's no perceived benefit there.
So a lot of the small employers aren't doing this, but I see this in the large employer groups, is that they have these things called compensation packages.
Yep.
They might send out a packet at the end of every year and say, this is how much we paid you, this is how much we paid in your benefits, this is how much we contributed to your 401k. People think, I make $50,000 a year. Well, how much taxes did your company have to pay for you? What did they pay for licensing, insurance, all of those things? That might be 20% more than what your actual compensation is. Unless you show people that, they have no concept of that. And that's just been my personal experience in working as an employer and working for somebody else, is that even myself, I will forget that. I only made $50,000 last year, but then when I start thinking, well, they do contribute this much towards my insurance, and I got 3% match. Seeing that dollar amount makes a world of difference for some people. Some people it still means nothing. I can tell you to do it, and that's going to change the world, but there's still going to be tons of people that it means absolutely nothing to them.
Well, and I think that it comes back to the employment culture too. I'm a big believer in the transparency piece of that, but then also creating a culture of kind of that reciprocity of, we're paying attention to what you need. We're paying, you're listening to us. There's a back and forth there. And I highly recommend that. If your employee benefits aren't getting the job done, anonymous surveys, there's lots of ways you can kind of access that information. You as a leader of your company might feel like your benefits are super affordable. But in a lot of cases, an employee that maybe makes $12 an hour doesn't feel that way. And some of those things are hard to look at. But again, it's a cost. And if you lose that $12 an hour employee, or you lose a whole bunch of them, that impacts your business. So there's an investment there too. And viewing all employees on a level playing field. There's nothing really more than I hate than employers kind of classing out their employees. Everyone has a job to do, and it's a team mentality, and we're all working together to get the job done. And as you've said a million times, employees can feel that when they don't feel like their employers appreciate them or understand them or make an effort to, again, have transparency, have a conversation. That's so much of what we talk about in these items, because, feeling a connection to your workplace when we spend so much time there, or feeling a connection to your leadership team or your team in general, it's also a benefit. So like I said, you could have the best health insurance in the world and do a 6% match on your 401k, but if nobody likes coming to work on Monday, we're really missing it.
One of the big things that I've seen and heard from people in the last year is they have people who are leaving and they got an offer to work for somebody else for $1 more an hour. That to me speaks a lot about that culture, right? If somebody's in a company with good culture, and if the benefits are truly what you say they are, they're going to come to you and say, hey, I can get $1 more an hour working somewhere else. If the culture is right, they're going to come to you first and ask you about that and say, hey, do you think that this makes sense? Is that something that you'd be willing to offer me to make that right? That's where culture for me really speaks to that. If someone's just going to show up one day and say, I quit, I got a job for $1 more an hour, that's a red flag to me. That something else deeper might be happening in the company.
Well, and to kind of circle back, we've covered a lot of cost topics, but you have enough of that happening, I'm going to guarantee your acquisition cost for employment is going to supersede anything that you're going to put in your benefits playing field. So those are, the assumption that it's always going to cost too much or be too much, you're asking the wrong question. So you have to look at it as a whole. And I think a lot of agents aren't doing that. And as we talked about in our first video, if you're not really identifying that in all group sizes, you're not creating or leveling the playing field for employees to look at your business. And that's what you want. You want to be a place people want to work. And that comes in so many different formats. Those are conversations that go on all year long, way before and way after your renewal period.
So if you'd love to talk to us more about this topic, you know how to reach Rachel and I. We'd be happy to cover this with you one-on-one at any time.
Yeah. We'll see you in our next video.
Thanks.